Hi colleagues, it's John Fischetti. On behalf of Scott-Imig, I welcome you to episode 4 of We Will Get Through This, Transformative Leadership in Disruptive Times. Today's episode will focus on understanding the notion of exponential change. This COVID thing is very hard on our brains, which think things through more in linear processes, 1 + 1 + 1, but this thing's growing exponentially, which is boggling the minds of most of us and challenging even our leaders to really get the speed at which this can envelop a whole community, a whole state, a whole nation, and indeed the whole planet. So as you think about this and watch the video that will follow, please keep in mind that part of your reality as a leader is to help people understand the dynamic nature of change, the same way climate change is evolving, and understand that we're going to have to probably speed up our own notion of how change is happening in our schools to create a positive, personalized view of learning and teaching, and really brilliantly preparing people to have great lives, which is really why we have schools to begin with. So we hope this is really helpful. Scott and I wish you well, and remember, we will get through this. All right, good day, colleagues. We've been talking a lot about trying to understand change and change the way the world is working rather than the way our brain understands it. We're wired really in linear change. We understand very well incremental things. It's sort of how we're defaulting because our brain may not be as sophisticated as some of the ways in which the world is working around us. So I have a kind of a simple way to help explain the difference between linear and exponential change. My guess is that all of you got A's or high distinctions in year 3 or 4 when exponents came in, but you may not really actually think exponentially, and that's the way the world is working. So to do that, I'm going to do a little demonstration with a piece of paper. It's not a trick. There's no wires connected to it. It's just a plain old A4 sheet, and I'm going to take it and fold it in half one time. All right, I'm going to do it again. That's 2. I'm going to fold it 3 times, 4 times, and this is the 5th time now I folded it. Now you've got to use your imagination, and this is where it kind of gets in adult space difficult, because after about year 3 we're only looking for right answers. We're told to stop imagining, but that's 5 times. If I could fold this piece of paper 50 times, how big or how thick would this sheet of paper be? Now remember, I physically can't do that, but I'm asking you to imagine how thick it would be. So take a moment, think about that. I'm going to ask you to stretch your imagination. All right, so when I fold it once, that's 2, right? 2 sheets equivalent. There's 4, you can see that's not David Copperfield, no illusion there. There's 8, there's 16, there's 32, it'd be 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048. You see how it's doubling from there? So how thick is that? For many of you, your imagination might start around a centimeter. Maybe you'll be bold enough to say 2 centimeters. If I was with a year 3 class, my foot is a foot. Isn't that weird? My foot's a foot. It's a good thing too, because if it was a hand, that would be small. All right? So would it be that thick? 50 times. And I can't get a lot of adults to say it'd be thicker than that. So let's figure out, is there a way to do this mathematically? Well, we won't do the full calculator. You could get your graphing calculator out right now. And if you think about it, this is 2 to the 50th power. So that's 2 times 2 times 2, all the way 50 times. So how thick would that be? Well, one sheet of paper is approximately 1,000th of a centimeter. That's one sheet. 4 sheets would be 4,000. What about 50 times folding? 2 to the 50th. Well, that would be 1 with about 19 zeros after it. That's a lot of sheets of paper. Now, one way to look at that is if this is the Earth and this is the Sun, and we have the Moon out here, how thick would it be? Might take us out into the asteroid belt right about here if we could actually fold that sheet of paper 50 times. If we fold it to 50 first, we'd actually be in the sun. We might have a burning sheet of paper by that point. Could that be? Is it possible you could fathom change that big? Well, right now, global climate change is changing the Earth's temperature exponentially. It seems infinitesimal, but if you look at the rate of growth of the temperature of the Earth and the change in the atmosphere, all you have to look at is the extreme velocity of the storms, the changing of the seasons to see something is changing rather dramatically on Earth. And it's because we only fathom linear change. We think we have the next 50 years to fix it. We might have the next 5. Cancer cells metastasize in the body, and any of you who have dealt with personally or have family members dealing with the tragedy of cancer understand the quickness in which the cells are multiplying actually gets up in front of the body's ability to cope with it. In change in the way Moore's law in technology is that we're doubling information every year. That's not 1 + 1. That's 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. So in just 4 or 5 years, just look at the storage capacity of tools that we use every day, from our mobile phones to our PCs to what's going into a hearing aid to a pacemaker. They're about ready to do a pacemaker, just dropping it into the heart as opposed to keeping it in a pouch up here. Imagine what's possible soon in the digital space with that much innovation taking place. So as we think about change, we've got to get out of our linear mindset into understanding exponential so the change doesn't drive us and we can drive it. We'll talk more about in the session that follows, but I wanted to give you a little sense that really this change that we're about here in transformational change is out of this world. And if we don't get a handle on it, we'll have other people who are experts in STEM-related fields dictating to the rest of us what the world's going to look like. And we're going to have to fathom what the asteroid belt looks like, even if we're sitting here on Earth. Thanks very much.